This is our 19th workshop on the capacity building for nonprofits. We're honored that you're here. Today, we're going to be working on budget development. I'm going to ask Rosetta, one of our paralegals, to give us an introduction and follow through.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes.
But yes, so let's get started. Good morning. And as Eliezer mentioned, my name is Rosetta Howard Jackson. Welcome to our community capacity building session on nonprofit fiscal accountability and budget development, hosted by Legal Aid of Northwest Texas and the Community Revitalization Project. Legal Aid of Northwest Texas, better known as LANWIT, is a nonprofit law firm that provides free civil legal services to low-income individuals who qualify. LANWIT is the 5th largest legal aid firm in the United States, with offices serving North and West Texas. The Community Revitalization Project, better known as CRP, is one of the projects within LANWIT that provides legal help to low-income individuals and groups. CRP works with the community and focuses on 3 basic areas: environmental justice, community development, and housing justice. So today's topics of conversation are non-fiscal accountability, budget development, budget line items, revenue, expenses, and templates. And our speakers this morning, as always, will be Sam Prince, Director of Development for LANWIT, Nancy Yakowitz, Staff Attorney for CRP, Eliezer Velez, and myself, who are paralegals for CRP. So at this time, I think we're going to begin with Sam Prince.
Good morning. A nonprofit organization's operating budget is a financial document that provides an overview as to how the organization is planning to spend its money, or it presents, to a certain degree, a picture of what the organization looks like. The operating budget is essentially a financial reflection of what the nonprofit expects to achieve over a 12-month period, at least in terms of revenues and expenses. Next slide, please. Who's got the slide? Oh, there it is. Now, most of us, without PhDs in accounting anyway, when we look at numbers, revenues and expenses, generally speaking, this is the picture that we see. It's a confusing picture of a bunch of stuff that we don't understand. Next slide. When you're calculating an operating budget, you look at total revenue and total expenses, but that can mislead you as to how big, or for that matter, how effective an organization actually is. That's where the budget comes in. By only looking at the expenses that are core to the actual daily operations of the nonprofit and ignoring the rest, you can get a good idea of the actual size of a nonprofit. Operating budgets for nonprofits are different than operating budgets for private companies. And the best way to explain that is most private companies sell a product that generates revenue. Their entire operation is based on the product that they sell. And then they determine what to charge for that product and how to reach a market to generate revenue. When you look at Wikipedia, the operating budget page for private companies mentions costs of goods sold and capital expenditures. Both of those are not necessarily relevant to a nonprofit organization. While we do have capital expenditures, our cost of goods sold comes in the form of the people providing services to our clients. And when we provide those services to clients, they're free, so we don't generate revenue. The general components of a nonprofit operating budget, therefore, are revenue sources and expenditure areas where the revenue comes in one door and goes out the other. The most common example is grants. Now, this is money that goes out. The most common example is grants to other organizations where the money comes in from donations or endowments returns and then goes out to either other organizations or individuals. The nonprofit itself doesn't use that money for internal salaries, rent, office expenses, utilities, etc. With this in mind, here is the basic calculation of a nonprofit operating budget. Total expenditures, grants, either to governments, organizations, or individuals, and then benefits paid to members or people that are provided services. Now, sometimes grants go to foreign governments or foreign organizations. For instance, if you are an American organization, but you're supporting victims of an earthquake, say in Haiti, your money is going to essentially provide goods and services in another country. So the IRS, when you fill out your 990 and you see mention of foreign governments, that's what they're talking about. Accountants among us, I don't know if there are any accountants among us, will note that this doesn't take into account capital expenditures like purchasing or leasing a new office, buying office equipment, or other potential assets. We treat all depreciation as an operating expense. And it also doesn't look at how some other expenses might be non-operating expenses. That's because we are limited by the way in which the IRS Form 990 is designed. And while it would be great to have a more precise calculation for the operating budget of the organization, we're limited by the standardized data at hand. Now, that's not to say we could lay it out another way, but the first way we generally think of things is the way we're forced to think of things by another organization like the IRS, which forces us to report information in a certain format so that they can understand it. And now I would like to introduce Nancy to take it from here.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. So I just have a few slides, and it's kind of big picture, right? Budget development. The important thing we want you to take away from these two slides here is the idea that when you're preparing your budget, it's a planning process. It's a key kind of, your budget is going to be your key financial management tool, and it's how you express your internal operations. What is your revenue, anticipated revenue that you foresee for the upcoming year if you're adopting your budget at the beginning of the year? And what are the foreseeable expenses that you have, that you anticipate? And you're dividing these two categories very broadly in terms of revenue and expenses. And you're kind of organizing your information, your revenue, anticipated dollars in terms of cash, in terms of grants from specific sources, in terms of in-kind donations, both in terms of materials and professional services and volunteer hours. And you're grouping these different forms of revenue in your revenue section, and then you're allocating this revenue into different categories for your expenses. And then just to kind of think about this is your financial management tool. It's how you express and monitor what you're doing as an organization in terms of your ongoing operations throughout the year. What you think will be your budget in January is not necessarily what it'll be come April or July or October. Your board may have in your organization's bylaws the kind of financial duty as a board member to review your budget, to adopt your financial documents on a quarterly basis. This is a way where you can review how your budget has performed, adjust your budget based on your performance. Have you brought in more dollars than you anticipated? Did one of the grant funding sources fall through? You're adjusting your numbers, and as necessary, you're also adjusting your expenses, right? If you get new funding, unexpected funding to deliver a program over the next year, you're going to make that adjustment on a real-time basis. So with each reporting period, the organization compares its actual performance against its plan. So you might have an operating budget, and you might also have an actual budget where you where you express how those dollars have changed, both in terms of revenue and expenses. And this is your internal process, right? You do report it out to the IRS, right, through the 990 form as a nonprofit organization, but you're also recording it through your budget, what kinds of revenue and expenses you're using as a nonprofit organization. So the next slide here, so we see this person, right? Maybe not an accountant, maybe not an economist, or maybe this person is, right? But they're kind of up to their eyeballs in numbers and in data, but he is still plugging away at it because this is a process. It's a planning process, but it's an important process, not just to frustrate you as a board member or so on, or the person who's looking over the numbers, but because by preparing your budget in a way where you feel confident, where you've kind of wrestled with the numbers, you can provide this budget to any potential funder. It could be a bank, it could be a governmental agency, it could be a community foundation, and you're providing these budget, a copy of your budget, your most recently adopted budget, as a way to show a potential funder who your organization is. And the kind of analogy we've used is describing it as an X-ray, right? A funder, a potential funder, someone who's familiar with nonprofit organizations, can take a look at your budget and pretty clearly get a sense of how big you are, and how capable you'll be at handling new resources, right? So you want a budget that doesn't have that does the work early on, showing what kinds of revenue you have, including in-kind resources. We think that's very important for community-based organizations, especially when they're leveraging resources from other types of foundations or nonprofit partners to express that, and to really drill down on the numbers. And you're also showing, what kinds of expenses you have, often in terms of staff, often in terms of maybe you have donated, an entity has donated you office space, right? You just want to bring all those figures together on your budget because it's how you can show a potential funder who you are as an organization, right? So it's worth the headache, and you as an organization, you have enough self-awareness to realize this is something you have to plug away at and work on until you have the budget that reflects your revenue, reflects your expenses in a way that you feel confident. Eliezer, did you want to add anything to that piece?
No, but thank you for the perspective going back to what Sam was saying. Numbers don't have to make sense to you, but there is some sense that you need to pull out numbers. And if you look at it that way, you don't need, all that I would say is maintain the work of the upkeep of your bookkeeping so that you don't get to the point where it's overwhelming, because then there's a lot of mistakes, things are done late. You can prepare something at the last minute and you might lose an opportunity because it wasn't that enough. But yes, thank you for all of that, both Sam and Nancy. What I would like to do now is we would like to, before we jump into the second half hour, which I would like to use to collectively put together the template that we're going to be working with. Before I do that, I would like to invite any of the community individuals, groups that are here. I know I've basically, we've basically been conducting these workshops based on the things that you've told us that you needed. And so we would like to have your input. If you have anything to share right now, we're going to ask you questions later on the actual line items and how you are quantifying. But if you have something to share that is memorable or something that is useful, that your organization has learned, that helps you focus on your numbers reporting requirements. So anything that helps, any story that you might have, just open the floor.
Eliezer, you know me.
Hey,
How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yes. So I'm not a numbers person at all. But what I did, I found somebody that's a numbers person. And she's not an accountant, but she's good with keeping the numbers straight. So every time we do anything, anybody give us money, we spend money, we buy something, we make a little copy of it and we forward it straight to Miss Carla, who has a spreadsheet that she created in her little database.
Who is also here.
So we're ready. Anytime we can pull up anything at the click of a finger when it comes to where did the money go.
That's wonderful. And that's the key. Where did the money go?
Eliezer?
Yes.
Something Nancy said, it triggered something in my memory. Twice a year, as part of my staff responsibilities, I and the other development staff, we review the budget of the development department. And it forces us to think not only about the money that's coming in and the money that's going out, but it forces us to plan our activities for the next 6 or 12 months. So that at least twice a year, I know that even though every day we're planning something, we're doing something, that at least twice a year we're reviewing everything that we're doing, in at least in terms of the revenue and the expenses, and that in turn we also review the actual activities. We sit down and say, we want to spend $50,000 on this, and part of the conversation is, what are we going to do with that, and are we really going to be able to do it? And then how are we really going to be able to do it? So it's an interesting exercise, and it forces us to focus our attention at least those 2 times a year on what we're doing, not only in terms of dollars and cents, but in terms of all of the other things that come with what we're spending money on.
Thank you for
That's my brilliance of the day.
No, you need to pour some more brilliance. You're not done yet. I would like to see, Marcus, do you have anything to add?
Hear me? You can't hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
One thing I could say, like, when I was filling out the SBA the first time, luckily I had learned from y'all about, documenting information, getting all my paperwork together, because those are things I needed to fill that paperwork out. And so another important thing, in your corner, you're able to give them information no matter what form is in, and they're able to turn it into numbers. And so you need those people in your corner.
Very good. Thank you very much. I know that your team is developing our Q&A, but it's a little bit different. Let me just explain what we're looking at. So what we're looking at here is our charitable objectives operating budget for 2021. We're in the middle of the year. So at this point, what we would like to do is to say, up until June 30th, this has been our actual budget because we already know that history. But our operating budget coming into the future is a combination of what we expect will come in based on whatever experience we've had to date, or if there's anything in the horizon, like a grant or things like that. So what we began to do here, and you will notice that we have the actual budget here, because what we're going to be doing is quantifying what we've been doing so far. Once you could actually begin and do it as an operating budget and say for the year 2021, this is how much money will come in and will go out. And as Sam already explained to you, in nonprofit, we begin the budget with whatever money is being spent, and then the revenue will catch up to it. So backwards from for-profit, where money to pay for the stuff and then you get the stuff going. So we all get that. So thank you, Sam, for such a great explanation. So in nonprofit, what we're doing is we're building this. We're going to be adding more line items as we go and make it more user-friendly as we may. I left these line items so that you might begin a projection of how much you're going to be paying your executive director. The way that you pay your executive director is you will get it out of donations, which includes any and all monies that come in, or besides grants, or you're going to use some of the money from a grant. And just for an example's sake, you're going to ask for $10,000 because you need to pay someone at least $30,000 so that they can do executive director work. The nonprofit requires that there's a pivotal person that moves, all of the levers. There's somebody there having to be out there. Initially, it's the president. The founding president becomes the executive director minus pay. An executive director is a paid position with a salary, unless you're giving the person a stipend. That's okay. But then discuss that on another segment. The main point is that what you're telling in your budget, if you send this template to a funding entity, you are telling them, this is how much we're expecting to raise or have already. And this is how much we want out of your grant, so that they're able to see that the $30,000 is being split like this. If you presently have, let's say, a secretary, have you figured out in your area how much a secretary will get paid per hour for the work? Has anybody done that kind of research?
No, I need to.
Okay, but what you want to do,
I'm just playing everything by ear right now.
okay, we're gonna go over it quickly, but every position that you have here, Jen, you do a search and you document where you got the information. So you begin to do your due diligence by figuring out how much should these people get paid, and then you make that projection. If you say by the end of the year, this is how much this person's going to get paid, that becomes your operating budget, as a part of your operating budget. So let's say administrative support. For the sake of expediting this part, because you don't have employees, I'm just going to give you my thoughts. You definitely need administrative support, and that could be a coordinator. So the coordinator could be, it almost looks like it's under volunteer support, but volunteer support usually begins with some form of a stipend, right? So we're going to say we need to give these people at least $5,000 in what's coming, or for the rest of the year. Let's assume it's for the full year. So there's all other stipends, volunteer support. When people come and do things for you, you give them a stipend, which would be on a card. I would recommend it that way, so you can keep track of it. So you can purchase a cash card for Walmart or however you want to do it. Document the amount and the person that you gave it to, and obviously it's for an event that happened, or it could be for a charity that you're doing it. So all the volunteer support here, I'm going to say another $1,000 because you have a lot of volunteers. Okay, but you do need to have a reason to pay a coordinator, and you're saying we're not going to pay them what they're worth, but we are giving them something for their effort. So the volunteer is here. You can actually ask for stipends, particularly if you have something that you are trying to pull off the ground. It's easy to explain to a grantor why you need this money. Administrative support, you definitely need administrative support. I'm going to say, let's say $5,000 here, but I'm going to also say here, I'm going to say another $5,000 is we need to squeeze 6 cents out of every nickel. So secretary, we're going to do without. Bookkeeping, you need to pay somebody that. It could be the administrative support. The administrative support could take care of the bookkeeping, right? So we're going to leave it like that for now. Have a $55,000 personnel budget, if you will. And I'm including the volunteer support money, anything you give to the people as part of the personnel. This is where I would like to take a breath. And this is where I asked groups that are here, CIVN, commissary is very necessary, and daughters across the diaspora. But what do you think that an organization, let's say that has a $55,000 administrative top, how much should the operations be costing? What is our percentage of cost to personnel cost? So keep that in mind. And can somebody tell me how much you pay on internet a month?
$29.
$29?
Yes.
Really cheap. I'm moving to where you are. Okay.
Spectrum.
Okay, equals hold on, 29.
It's about $45 a month.
It's okay. That's to me. That sounds like
I have a basic plan and I get everything. I have internet, full internet, $29.
all right. Well, see, you're squeezing the 6 cents. I need to move to where you are. So hold on a
I
second.
think I'm paying about 60 something.
What?
I used to pay 90 something.
Y'all crazy.
All right. Right.
Wow.
29 times this. All right. It's not gonna take me that long once I figure it out. I just want to like come up with a generalized what it should be looking like, right? So if that's how much we have for internet. You said you also have phone with that? Dion, you said you got phone?
My internet is 29, my phone is 40. I got basic everything and I manage. $40 a month for my phone bill.
What I'm doing is I'm saying I'm multiplying it for the entire year, right? So if that changes, equal I-26. All right. So does your organization need a printer or scanner? You know.
We have one, $2.99.
Okay, that, and the reason why you see this here is just in case we need to change it, but that's just because I'm attentive about that. Printing paper, do you have an idea how much you will be spending on that?
Yes, in one case, the last time we bought printing paper, one case at Staples, I think it was 32 something, don't quote me, 30 something dollars for the box.
Well, since you squeeze 6 cents out of a penny, a nickel, I'm gonna just say go with the 32. Do you have an on ink?
Ink is $29.99 for the colored, no, for the black and white, and $39 for the colored. I'm using a lot of ink.
Hold on. 29 plus 39, right?
Yeah.
So that would be every how often?
Every other month.
So it's times 6, so equals
Yeah.
I-29 times, so I'm multiplying it times 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is how I'm keeping track of the numbers. Generally, what happens is you have the numbers put in as you go, but for the purpose of our explanation, that's why I'm putting in. You can actually delete numbers and the numbers will show up on the bottom. So, but I like working out. So has anybody paid contracted work? Have you paid for somebody to do your books, to do your accounting, to write a grant, to do any kind of other work that
we pay for internet? We pay somebody, we're paying $1,100 to do the website.
Okay, so that, I think it's on the bottom.
Mhm.
Website. Okay, so, very good. So that is contracted work. Sam, what would you do here? Would you put it on the contracted work, or would you put it under website management? I think it could go under either. I think that what I would do would be to then take the website management thing from here and add it. Does that look right to you, Sam? Hold on. Sam, did I lose you?
I've been talking for a while. You just couldn't hear me because my mute was on. If it's a person you're paying on a specific contract, then it belongs in contracted work, but it could actually go under website management.
Okay, right. Okay. So yeah, so to make it simple, since we have the category already there, and that's a sizable investment, discretionary fund is a fund basically that it's basically a little sludge fund that you keep on the side. Sometimes some things happen and you either need what is it, petty cash. So depending on what you're doing and what sometimes you might be required to do, there should be a number that is agreed to that the organization is able to spend without having to create a request for the funding. So that's what I call that. Does anybody have anything like that already set? Not. Basically, it's something that when you go to your board, as Nancy was saying, and saying, this is what we're going to be spending our money on, or what we've been spending our money on, this is something, a line item that they should understand and everybody agree on. And it makes things a little bit easier, particularly if you know, okay, we can spend, $50 a day. There's something going on that we need to address. And you can say if it's over $50 or whatever, then we need to have a system or a process to request for the funding to be looked at and agreed upon. So that's just a discretionary fund that I think is a smart thing to have. You don't want to put a lot of money in there and don't put a lot of miscellaneous stuff in there. You want to, if fund is discretionary, you want to provide as much detail as possible as to what the money was used for. Okay. So anyway, that's just how I would look at it. I'm going to say nothing for now.
So for instance, if you had to call a plumber, would that go under discretionary expense?
Well, actually, no, because that would probably be something that is necessary for the function of, if the plumber's is discretionary fund is more towards day-to-day things that you encounter with the workforce, or a special thing that happens charitable wise outside that you're going to say, we're going to give this person $50 because they don't have anything in their refrigerator. That kind of a thing. Speaking about a plumber, then you're dealing with more of a maintenance kind of thing, which should also be a line item that I don't have. Let me put it in here. And maintenance is the plumber's going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to, for $50, they'll talk to you maybe. But if there's a problem, you need a plumber for it, it'll probably be more expensive. And for those things, you just have to do the management as you would. Okay. So, but that's just my insignificant opinion. Let me just through the COVID season and even now, there's being given because of and for the remediation of COVID. So if there's anything in these line items that you want to point to in the grant petition, you might want to ask the people for it. If they're giving money for sustaining COVID safety, anything going forward, or because of COVID to fix problems, you want to put the money request on this item. So you want to get $2,000 worth. So that's not necessarily a lot. Food and supplies, you might want to say we want $5,000. We're putting a lot of zeros when we are asking the fund. Also have another probably amount here. We're going to say $1,000 that we're going to have from our own money, and we're going to put another $2,000 from our own money, which could include in-kind donations, right? So you're seeing how everything is shaping up. This is a total amount of everything, how much we're asking for. Office supplies, sorry, Dion, do you have a line item for that?
We don't, and that's only because we had a whole lot of office supplies from before on
Okay.
another renter that we still
Okay.
using. Yeah,
Okay,
so
so
but that's
you're
an overlook, yeah.
you're squeezing the 6 cents out of the nickel. So, right? So staff expense is when you have expenses that deal with the employment of the administration people. I'm not gonna get into that right now. It's basically, when you have employees, you have staff expense. So I'm gonna say no for our template. And here, Sam and I were discussing the presentation of your budget. We're going line by line, right? Sam was explaining something yesterday regarding the budgets that he has looked at. And Sam, would you explain that in contrast to what we're doing here?
Normally, you see various expense line items. In this particular case, you see program 1 has equipment, transportation, in-kind payments, and other. Program 2 has equipment, in-kind payments, transportation, other materials, and permits. Now, normally, we wouldn't see that in, at least for instance, in Legal Aid of Northwest Texas budget. It's not broken out by program, it's broken out by type of expense. But if you break it out by program, it gives you a chance to show a picture of the amount of resources, at least non-staff resources, you're allocating to specific activities. And that may or may not be good depending on your particular nonprofit organization, but it is something to consider.
Thank you, Sam. Very clear. So we're going to say equipment. I actually wonder if anybody has had to buy a laptop, or we do have laptops up here. Oh no, we didn't. We don't. This one. Okay. So any kind of.
We didn't buy a laptop, we bought a whole computer.
Okay. So what was the cost?
Laptop is a whole computer.
No, look, I can't stand the laptop. I'll be all over the place. So I bought a computer, a desktop, and it was $890 somebody. It was a little bit under $800.
Under 800, so 790 somebody. Okay, so we're gonna ask them, because equipment is something that you should always want to have, and they can give you another computer or a computer, also known as a laptop. So say, give us $500 for equipment. Transportation, basically you keep track of the, where you're going when you have to either perhaps take a trip, bring people to somewhere, or perhaps people are taking care of a lot of running around while you're preparing for something to happen. And so you want to be able to have transportation money. And that would be, I would say you can provide stipends on that. So if I'm a volunteer that's driving around 2 days, nonstop to help the thing happen, it's good to put money in my pocket. So that would, you can give me a card and it'll have your information, would have my name and my address. if I'm one of your volunteers and the amount that was given and for what, and it would be transportation. So if you are gonna have, I don't know, 4 major events throughout the year, you wanna have at least, and you're gonna have, I would say 5, I would say request at least, I like the number 5,000, so, but I'm gonna say 4,500 from the grant. And again, it all depends on what they're giving money from the grant. And you can say, we're also chipping out of our own money, $1,500. So the actual budget for that, operating budget for the year is this amount. In-kind payments, basically, I'm not gonna get into all the details because this is a very specific situation for somebody, but I'm gonna say no, 0 to everything else from here, just to, and then here, equipment. I'm going to say for the other program, we might need a better scanner, right? So a good scanner might be, I would say 400.
$695.
$695. All right. And so you can say, well, we do the scanner and we're gonna do the, what is it? 670. So it's gonna be 305. Okay, good. Transportation, always good to have funding in this area because you want to keep your volunteers happy. You always specify what it is. Miscellaneous items are categorized as miscellaneous because there's something small that it's just minutia, relatively speaking. But when you're doing your nonprofit bookkeeping, you need to keep that number minuscule. Instead of, I don't know what it is, put it on the miscellaneous, and then you have like your budget is miscellaneous, that cannot work. So that makes sense, right? I'm not gonna put anything here for now, but so here we have $1,000. Ask for $1,000 here. IT costs, if you need them, that's when you have a server. You're really handling your employees, your volunteers. You're managing your fundraising campaign, your capital campaign. You're managing the different programs, and you are keeping all this information somewhere safe. So
Right.
you protected, insurance, you have a specific cost. I don't think that we are there yet, but for somebody getting to this level, I would say begin having at least $1,000, no, actually, say $2,000 to pay somebody to have this protection developed. Your website should not fall out of certification or have issues with security. All that. So here we're gonna say we're gonna ask for $2,000 from them. Costs, and I would say now, because of all of the awareness, I would also have. Oh, it's almost 11 o'clock. I kind of just flew. I hope this has been helpful. IT costs and now security, right? I'm gonna sort of like move forward a little, leave this like this, just to show you this is the total budget that you have. Money is gonna cost you to do all the things that you're saying. This is something we're going to forward to you. It's a work in progress. We're going to show you how to keep track of your cash donations and your in-kind donations. We will follow through the next time that we meet. So all of your revenue, cash, in kind, will be totaled here and also moved to this area here, so that if you keep track of your numbers in this worksheet, when your numbers are tallied, your main budget will be pre-filled. You don't have to be changing the numbers, right? You're also going to do the same thing with the expenses. What I did was I made a list of everything, and we're going to include the categories. And the categories, I'm running through this one. The categories relate to these numbers here on the left. So your expenses generally will be 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Program expenses are 16, printing, publications, postage is 15, rent, 14, professional services, 13, and salaries is 12. These are the categories that throughout anytime that funding is coming in, let me change this here. Anytime that funding is coming in, you keep track. You keep on top of it. Was mentioning. So the category, I'm not going to get into these now. Utilities are a special category in the IRS with the rent. But generally, just about everything else is going to be category 16. I'm going to forward this to you. It's a work in progress. So if you would like to have a copy of it now, in between, the final session, we're going to be doing the finalization of all of the template and provide it to you. So you just put in your information, it'll total your front of your budget, and you don't have to continually be making it. If you would please put down your name and your email, I'll forward this to you. I'm trying to not bombard everybody with a lot of email. So if this is something that you like to have, please put in your so that I can send it to you. At this point, I would like to ask, does anybody have any questions? Any comments?
Loving it, just loving it.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We just want to finish our session today. We just want to finish by session today by saying thank you for coming. Please feel free to reach out. Our email is crp@landwidth.org. So feel free to call me there. If you have, you can text me at the number that is shown on your screen. Further to say, we hope that we have been useful in instructing and in supporting your effort. We'll be sending an email with this video, so a little bit more edit that condensed in time for everybody's convenience. And we also just want to thank Rosetta and Sam and Nancy for being here. And each of you have a great, great weekend. What you do does not go unnoticed. Somebody notices, even if you do something and somebody, because of you, helps somebody else, that I believe is good karma coming your way. I'll be quiet now. If anybody else of the presenters want to say something, this is your opportunity.
No, I think you've said it all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for outstanding information.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this, Eleazar. It's really good information. I really appreciate it.
We're glad you are enjoying it. It's important to us. It's because of you that we do it.
I'm gonna give you a call here later on, and
Okay.
we're gonna talk one-on-one.
Sure. I'll be free anytime. Anytime after 3.
Okay, that sounds great.
For me, he's only reasonable. For you, he's free.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
You guys are
you.
You guys are very important to us. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming, Carla.
Thank you for having me, Eliezer.
Okay, look forward to chatting soon, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, stay well now.